The exiled sentinel. In the far reaches of the galaxy, on a desolate planet known as Xerxes 9, the twin suns cast an eerie, purple glow across the barren landscape. Jagged mountains pierced the sky, their peaks shrouded in swirling, toxic clouds. The surface was a treacherous maze of deep canyons and vast, acidic plains where no life dared to flourish. This was a world of exile, a prison planet for the galaxy's most dangerous criminals and outcasts. Among the forsaken inhabitants of Xerxes 9, one figure stood apart. Crixus, once a revered warrior of the Zarkonian Empire, now lived in solitude atop the highest peak. Her silver skin shimmered in the dim light, a stark contrast to the dull grays and browns of her surroundings. Crixus' eyes, a deep, swirling violet, scanned the horizon as she had done every day for the past decade. Crixus was not like the other exiles. She had not been banished for crimes of greed or violence, but for an act of mercy. In the heat of a great battle, she had spared an enemy leader, believing that compassion could end the cycle of war. Her people, the Zarkonians, saw this as the ultimate betrayal. They stripped her of her rank, her honor, and exiled her to this hellish world, far from the empire she had once sworn to protect. The years of isolation had changed Crixus. Her once proud posture now held a weariness that spoke of countless battles against the planet's hostile environment. Her armor, once gleaming and adorned with medals of valor, was now pitted and scarred. Yet despite the harsh conditions and loneliness, a fire still burned within her. Crixus had not forgotten the principles that had led to her exile, and she clung to them like a lifeline in this sea of desolation. As the first sun began to set, casting long shadows across the rocky terrain, Crixus noticed something unusual. A bright streak cut across the purple sky, leaving a trail of fire in its wake. Her keen eyes followed its trajectory, realizing with a start that it was a small ship plummeting towards the surface at an alarming rate. Without hesitation, Crixus leaped into action. Her powerful legs propelled her down the mountainside with incredible speed, her body moving with a grace that belied her years of hardship. As she ran, her mind raced with possibilities. No ships ever came to Xerxes 9 willingly. Whatever, or whoever, was in that vessel was either in great danger or desperate beyond measure. The ship crashed in a canyon several miles from Crixus's mountain. By the time she arrived, night had fallen, and the crash site was illuminated only by the flickering flames of the wreckage. Crixus approached cautiously, her warrior instincts on high alert. The ship was unlike any she had seen before, sleek, with strange markings that pulsed with a faint blue light. As she drew closer, Crixus heard a sound that made her pause. It was faint, almost lost in the crackling of the flames, but unmistakable. A cry. Not the roar of a fearsome criminal or the shout of a hardened warrior, but the frightened whimper of a child. Crixus's heart raced as she carefully made her way through the debris. There, huddled in a small pocket formed by the twisted metal, was a sight that took her breath away. A human child, no more than 7 years old, lay curled up and shivering. The girl's skin was pale, her hair a tangle of golden curls. She clutched a worn stuffed animal tightly to her chest, her eyes wide with fear as she gazed up at Crixus. For a moment, Crixus stood frozen, her mind struggling to comprehend the situation. Humans were a rarity in this part of the galaxy, and a child. It was unthinkable. What cruel twist of fate had brought this innocent to the most dangerous planet in the known universe? The girl's lip trembled, and tears began to stream down her face. The sight stirred something deep within Crixus, awakening feelings she thought had long since died. With slow, deliberate movements, she knelt beside the child, her voice soft as she spoke. "Do not be afraid, little one," Crixus said, her words translated by the universal communicator embedded in her armor. "I will not harm you." The child blinked, surprise replacing fear for a moment. You can talk," she whispered. Crixus nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "I can. My name is Crixus. What is yours?" "Zoe," the girl replied, her voice barely audible. "Where am I? Where's my mom and dad?" The question sent a pang through Crixus's heart. How could she explain to this child that she was now stranded on a planet from which there was no escape? That her parents, if they had been on the ship, were almost certainly dead? Before Crixus could formulate a response, a distant roar echoed through the canyon. The exiled warrior's head snapped up, her eyes scanning the darkness. She knew that sound all too well. The call of a Xerxian sandstalker, one of the deadliest predators on the planet. "We must go," Crixus said urgently, turning back to Zoe. "It isn't safe here. Will you come with me?" Zoe hesitated, clutching her stuffed animal tighter. Another roar, closer this time, made the decision for her. She nodded, reaching out a small hand towards Crixus. With utmost gentleness, Crixus scooped Zoe into her arms. The child was so light, so fragile compared to the Zarkonian's strong, armored body. As Crixus stood, cradling Zoe close to her chest, she felt a fierce protectiveness wash over her. In that moment, she made a silent vow. She would keep this child safe, no matter the cost. Crixus moved swiftly through the night, her feet sure on the treacherous terrain. Zoe clung to her, face buried against the alien's shoulder. As they ascended the mountain towards Crixus's sanctuary, the warrior's mind raced. She had survived alone on this hostile world for years, but caring for a human child. It seemed an impossible task. Yet, as she felt Zoe's small form trembling against her, Crixus knew she had no choice. This child, this unexpected arrival, had given her something she had lost long ago. A purpose. No longer was she simply surviving. Now she had someone to protect, to nurture, to fight for. As they reached the entrance to Crixus's cave, the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon. Zoe had fallen into an exhausted sleep, her small hand still clutching a piece of Crixus' armor. The warrior looked down at the child, then out at the harsh world beyond. "Rest now, little one," Crixus whispered, her voice filled with a determination she had not felt in years. "Tomorrow, we face this world together." As Crixus carried Zoe into the safety of her home, she felt a spark of hope ignite within her. Perhaps in this unlikeliest of places, with this most unexpected of companions, she would find redemption. And perhaps together, they would prove that even in the darkest corners of the universe, compassion and courage could still prevail. The suns of Xerxes IX climbed higher in the sky, casting their purple light over the alien landscape. In a cave high above the deadly plains, an exiled warrior and a lost human child slept, unaware that their chance encounter was about to change not only their lives, but the fate of entire worlds. The legend of Crixus and Zoe, the unlikeliest of heroes, was about to begin. An unlikely alliance. The harsh light of Xerxes IX's twin suns filtered through the narrow opening of Crixus's cave, rousing the exiled warrior from her fitful sleep. For a moment, she lay still, her senses alert for any sign of danger. Then the events of the previous night came rushing back, and she turned her gaze to the small form curled up beside her. Zoe slept peacefully, her golden curls tangled and her face smudged with dirt. In the unforgiving light of day, Crixus could see just how fragile the human child truly was. Her pale skin was ill-suited to the planet's harsh radiation, and her small body would quickly succumb to the toxic atmosphere without protection. As if sensing Crixus's gaze, Zoe stirred and opened her eyes. For a brief moment, confusion clouded her features, then recognition dawned, followed swiftly by fear. "It wasn't a dream," Zoe whispered, her voice trembling. Crixus shook her head gently. "No, little one, it wasn't. But you are safe here." Zoe sat up, clutching her stuffed animal tightly. "I want my mom and dad," she said, tears welling in her eyes. The pain in the child's voice struck Crixus like a physical blow. How could she explain the harsh realities of their situation to one so young? She took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "Zoe, I know you're scared and you miss your parents, but right now we need to focus on keeping you safe. This world is very dangerous, and we must work together to survive. Can you be brave for me?" Zoe sniffled, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. She looked up at Crixus, her gaze filled with a mix of fear and determination. Slowly, she nodded. "Good," Crixus said, allowing a small smile to cross her face. "Now let's see what we can do about breakfast." The next few hours were a flurry of activity as Crixus set about adapting her sparse dwelling to accommodate her new charge. She fashioned a crude filter mask for Zoe using scraps of her own clothing and components from her armor's life support system. It wasn't perfect, but it would help protect the child from the worst of the planet's toxic atmosphere. Food was the next challenge. Crixus had survived on a diet of native flora and fauna that her Zarkonian physiology could process, but she had no idea what would be safe for a human child. They would need to experiment carefully. As Crixus worked, Zoe watched with wide-eyed curiosity. The fear in her eyes gradually gave way to interest as she observed the alien warrior's ingenuity. "What's that?" Zoe asked, pointing to a strange, pulsating plant that Crixus was carefully cutting. "This is Exiled airroot," Crixus explained. "It absorbs toxins from the air and stores clean water inside. With some processing, it might be safe for you to drink." Zoe's brow furrowed in concentration, like a plant straw. Crixus paused, considering the child's words. "Yes, I suppose it is like that. You're very observant, Zoe." The girl beamed at the praise, and Crixus felt a warmth in her chest that she hadn't experienced in years. Perhaps this unlikely partnership could work after all. As the days passed, Crixus and Zoe fell into a routine. Each morning, they would venture out to gather supplies, with Crixus teaching Zoe about the various dangers and resources of their harsh environment. The child proved to be a quick learner, her natural curiosity and adaptability serving her well. One day, as they were returning from a foraging expedition, Zoe spotted something glinting in the distance. "Crixus, look," she exclaimed, pointing towards a narrow ravine. Crixus squinted, her enhanced vision picking out the object. It appeared to be a piece of technology, half buried in the toxic soil. Her instincts screamed caution, but the potential value of such a find was too great to ignore. "Stay close to me," she instructed Zoe as they approached the ravine. As they drew closer, Crixus realized with a start that the object was a drone, unlike any she had seen before. Its sleek design and advanced propulsion system spoke of technology far beyond that of most spacefaring races. Zoe, her natural curiosity overcoming her caution, reached out to touch the drone. To Crixus's amazement, the machine sprang to life at the child's touch, its lights blinking and a soft hum emanating from its core. "How did you do that?" Crixus asked, astonished. Zoe shrugged, looking as surprised as Crixus felt. "I don't know. I just wanted it to wake up, and it did." Crixus's mind raced with the implications. Could it be that this human child possessed some innate ability to interface with technology? If so, it could explain why she had been brought to this forsaken planet. Such a skill would be invaluable and dangerous in the wrong hands. Before Crixus could ponder further, a distant rumble caught her attention. Her eyes widened as she recognized the sound. A ship entering the atmosphere. But that was impossible. No one ever came to Xerxes 9 voluntarily. "We need to go now," Crixus said urgently, scooping Zoe into her arms. The child clutched the drone to her chest as Crixus sprinted back towards their cave. As they reached the safety of their hideout, Crixus's mind whirled with possibilities. Who could be coming to this planet, and why? Were they here for Zoe? And if so, what did that mean for the child's safety, and for Crixus' vow to protect her? Zoe, sensing Crixus' tension, looked up at her with worried eyes. "What's wrong? Who's coming?" Crixus met the child's gaze, her resolve strengthening. "I don't know, little one. But whatever happens, we face it together. Remember what I taught you about staying hidden." Zoe nodded solemnly. "Find a safe spot, stay quiet, and wait for your signal." "Good," Crixus said, managing a reassuring smile. "Now, let's prepare." We may have a long night ahead of us." As the suns of Xerxes IX began to set, casting long shadows across the barren landscape, Crixus and Zoe huddled in their cave. The drone, now silent, sat between them like a silent guardian. Outside, the sound of the approaching ship grew louder. Crixus felt a fierce protectiveness wash over her as she looked at Zoe. In the short time they had been together, this human child had awakened something in her that she thought had been lost forever: hope. And she would fight with every fiber of her being to keep that hope alive. As darkness fell and the stars began to twinkle in the toxic sky, Crixus and Zoe waited, their unlikely alliance about to face its first true test. Little did they know that their actions in the coming hours would set in motion events that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. The legend of the exiled warrior and the human child was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would challenge everything they thought they knew about themselves, each other, and the universe they inhabited. The lurking threat. The night air of Xerxes IX crackled with tension as Crixus and Zoe huddled in the shadows of their cave. The distant hum of the approaching ship grew louder, its engines cutting through the eerie silence of the toxic planet. Crixus's violet eyes narrowed as she peered into the darkness, her enhanced vision scanning for any sign of the vessel. "Crixus," Zoe whispered, her small hand clutching the alien warrior's arm. "I'm scared." Crixus placed a reassuring hand on the child's shoulder. "Fear is natural, little one. But remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it." Zoe nodded, her face set in determination. The bond between the unlikely pair had grown stronger with each passing day, forged in the crucible of survival on this unforgiving world. Suddenly, the sky lit up as the ship breached the cloud cover. It was a sleek, predatory vessel, its hull adorned with cruel spikes and pulsing with an ominous red energy. Crixus felt her heart sink as she recognized the design. It was a Draknar warship, belonging to one of the most ruthless species in the galaxy. By the ancient stars, Crixus breathed, her mind racing. The Draknar were conquerors, slavers, and worse. Their presence on Xerxes IX could only mean trouble. As the ship touched down on a plateau, not far from their hiding place, Crixus made a quick decision. "Zoe, I need you to stay here and keep absolutely silent. No matter what you hear, don't come out until I return. Can you do that for me?" Zoe's lower lip trembled, but she nodded bravely. "I can do it. But please be careful, Crixus." The warrior felt a surge of pride for the child's courage. "I will. And remember, you have the drone. If anything happens, use it to call for help." With a final reassuring nod, Crixus slipped out of the cave and into the night. She moved like a shadow, her years of training and survival on Xerxes IX making her nearly invisible in the harsh landscape. As she approached the Draknar ship, voices drifted on the toxic wind. Crixus crouched behind a jagged rock, straining to hear. Signal originated from this sector. A gravelly voice was saying, "The human child must be here somewhere." Crixus's blood ran cold. They were after Zoe. But why? Another voice, deeper and more authoritative, responded, "Lord Vexcor will not tolerate failure. Find the girl and eliminate anyone who stands in your way. Her power could tip the balance of the entire galaxy." Crixus' mind whirled. Lord Vexcor. The name was spoken with such fear and reverence that it could only belong to someone of immense power and cruelty. And what power could Zoe possibly possess that would interest such a being? As she pondered these questions, a memory flashed in Crixus's mind. Zoe activating the drone with just a touch. Could it be that the child had some innate ability to control technology? If so, in the hands of someone like Lord Vexcor, it could indeed be a galaxy-altering power. Crixus' resolve hardened. She had to protect Zoe, not just for the child's sake, but for the sake of countless worlds that could suffer if her power was misused. Silently, Crixus began to retreat, planning to return to the cave and figure out their next move. But as she turned, her foot dislodged a small stone. The tiny sound was like a thunderclap in the stillness of the night. What was that? The gravelly voice demanded. Spread out and search the area. Crixus cursed under her breath. She couldn't lead them back to Zoe. With a deep breath, she made a split-second decision. Reaching down, she picked up a large rock and hurled it far to her left, away from the direction of the cave. The distraction worked. Over there, one of the Draknar soldiers shouted. As they moved to investigate, Crixus used the opportunity to slip away, circling wide to throw off any pursuit before heading back to the cave. When she finally returned, she found Zoe exactly where she had left her, eyes wide with fear and relief. Crixus, the child exclaimed in a whisper. I was so worried. We need to move, Crixus said urgently. It's not safe here anymore. We have to find a new hiding place. As they quickly gathered their meager belongings, Crixus' mind raced. They couldn't keep running forever. Sooner or later, the Draknar would find them. They needed a plan, a way to not just survive, but to escape this planet altogether. Her eyes fell on the drone, still clutched in Zoe's arms. An idea began to form, a desperate, dangerous idea, but perhaps their only chance. Zoe, Crixus said as they prepared to leave the cave, I need you to listen carefully. Those people out there, they're looking for you because you're special. You can do things that no one else can do. Zoe looked confused. What do you mean? Crixus knelt down to look the child in the eyes. Remember how you made the drone work? That's not something just anyone can do. You have a gift, Zoe, and we need to use that gift to get off this planet and keep you safe. The girl's eyes widened as understanding dawned. But I don't know how I did it. What if I can't do it again? Crixus smiled reassuringly. I believe in you, little one, and I'll be right there with you every step of the way. Together, we can do this. Are you ready for an adventure? Zoe took a deep breath, then nodded, a spark of determination in her eyes. I'm ready. Let's do it together. With a proud smile, Crixus led Zoe out of the cave and into the toxic night. As they made their way across the treacherous landscape, the exiled warrior and the human child forged ahead, their unlikely alliance now the galaxy's best hope against a lurking threat that sought to upset the balance of power. Behind them, the Draknar forces continued their search, unaware that their quarry was slipping through their fingers. And far above, in the cold vastness of space, an unseen force watched and waited, its interest piqued by the unfolding drama on the surface of Xerxes 9. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test the limits of Crixus' strength, Zoe's newfound abilities, and the bond they had formed. As they ventured into the unknown, one thing was certain. The fate of worlds now rested in the hands of an exiled alien warrior and a human child with an extraordinary gift. The legend of Crixus and Zoe was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would challenge everything they thought they knew about themselves, each other, and the universe. As Crixus watched, Zoe began to manipulate the holographic controls with an intuition that seemed beyond her years. The child's natural creativity and problem-solving skills, combined with her mysterious connection to the technology, were unlocking potentials that even the structure's original creators might never have imagined. A beam of energy shot from the top of the structure, piercing the toxic atmosphere of Xerxes 9 and streaking across the stars. Their distress call was away, carrying with it their hopes for rescue. But their triumph was short-lived. The energy beam had not gone unnoticed. The ground shook as explosions rocked the area around the structure. The Draknar had found them. Zoe, we need to find a way to defend ourselves, Crixus said urgently, her warrior instincts kicking in. Is there anything here we can use? Zoe's eyes darted around the chamber, taking in the various systems she had awakened. Suddenly, her face lit up with an idea. The crystals, she exclaimed. They're not just for power. They can create barriers, I think, force fields. With renewed focus, Zoe began to work the controls again. Outside, the Draknar forces were closing in, their weapons fire echoing through the toxic air. But just as they reached the structure, a shimmering dome of energy sprang into existence, enveloping the entire building. Crixus watched in awe as the Draknar weapons fire dissipated harmlessly against the barrier. "You did it, Zoe," she exclaimed, a rare smile breaking across her face. But Zoe wasn't finished. Her hands danced across the controls, and suddenly, the structure itself began to change. Panels shifted, revealing hidden weapon systems that hummed to life under Zoe's guidance. "I don't want to hurt anyone," Zoe said, her voice trembling slightly. "But we need to keep them away until help arrives." Crixus placed a comforting hand on the child's shoulder. "Sometimes, little one, we must fight to protect what's important. You're doing the right thing." Outside, the Draknar forces found themselves under attack from weapons they couldn't understand, fired with a precision that seemed impossible. Confused and outmatched, they began to fall back. As the battle raged, Crixus and Zoe worked together, the warrior's tactical knowledge complementing the child's intuitive control of the ancient technology. It was a dance of sorts, a perfect synergy of strength and ingenuity, of experience and innovation. Hours passed, the Draknar attacks growing more desperate as they failed to breach the defenses. Zoe's face was pale with exhaustion, but her determination never wavered. Crixus stood vigilant, ready to defend the child with her life if the barrier should fall. Just when it seemed they could hold out no longer, a new sound cut through the chaos of battle. The roar of engines, different from the Draknar ships, filled the air. Through the shimmering barrier, Crixus saw a fleet of sleek, silver vessels descending from the sky, their weapons trained on the Draknar forces. "The rescue team," Crixus breathed, hardly daring to believe it. "Zoe, you did it. They're here." As the new arrivals engaged the Draknar, forcing them into retreat, Zoe finally allowed herself to relax. She slumped against Crixus, utterly spent but wearing a triumphant smile. "We did it together," Zoe murmured, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. Crixus gathered the child in her arms, her heart swelling with pride and affection. "Yes, little one. Together." As the sounds of battle faded and the rescue ships landed nearby, Crixus realized that their adventure was far from over. They had overcome incredible odds, but new challenges, and perhaps even greater wonders, awaited them beyond the toxic skies of Xerxes IX. The legend of the exiled warrior and the human child with extraordinary gifts was spreading across the stars. And somewhere out there, Lord Vexcor and his Draknar forces were regrouping, their desire for Zoe's power only intensified by this defeat. But for now, as their rescuers approached the ancient structure, Crixus allowed herself a moment of hope. Whatever the future held, she and Zoe would face it as they had faced every challenge so far. Together, their unlikely alliance a beacon of light in the darkness of space. The next chapter of their journey was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The final stand. The sleek rescue ships touched down on the barren surface of Xerxes IX, kicking up swirls of toxic dust. As the hatches opened, figures in advanced environmental suits emerged, their weapons at the ready. Crixus tensed, instinctively pulling Zoe closer, but the child placed a reassuring hand on the warrior's arm. "It's okay," Zoe said softly. "They're friends. I can feel it." The leader of the rescue team approached, removing their helmet to reveal a face that was unmistakably human. "I'm Captain Aisha Chen of the Galactic Alliance," she announced. "We received your distress call. Are you Zoe and Crixus?" Crixus nodded, still wary but relieved. "Yes, we are. Thank you for coming." As the rescue team secured the area, Captain Chen explained the situation. The Galactic Alliance had been tracking Lord Vexcor's activities for years, suspecting he was after a powerful artifact or weapon. They never imagined it would be a child with extraordinary abilities. "We need to get you both to safety immediately," Captain Chen urged. "Our intelligence suggests Vexcor is gathering a massive fleet. This isn't over." As they boarded the rescue ship, Zoe looked back at the ancient structure that had been their salvation. "We can't just leave it," she said, her voice filled with concern. "What if the bad guys come back and use it?" Crixus knelt beside her. "What do you suggest, little one?" Zoe closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind to the alien technology one last time. Suddenly, the ground began to shake. The rescue team watched in awe as the entire structure began to sink into the planet, disappearing beneath the toxic soil. "There," Zoe said, opening her eyes. "Now it's safe until someone worthy finds it again." As their ship broke through Xerxes IX's atmosphere, Crixus felt a mix of emotions. This harsh world had been her prison for so long, yet it was also where she had found a new purpose, a new family in Zoe. Their respite was short-lived. Alarms blared throughout the ship as they emerged from hyperspace near the Alliance's hidden base. A massive Draknar fleet, led by Vexacor's flagship, was waiting for them. "How did they find us so quickly?" Captain Chen exclaimed, her face pale with shock. Zoe's eyes widened in realization. "It's me," she whispered. "They must be tracking my connection to technology somehow." Crixus placed a comforting hand on Zoe's shoulder. "This isn't your fault, little one, but perhaps it's also the solution." As the Alliance fleet engaged the Draknar forces, buying them time, Crixus and Zoe put their plan into action. They made their way to the ship's engineering bay, where Zoe could interface directly with the core systems. "Are you sure about this?" Crixus asked, concern evident in her voice. Zoe nodded, her face set with determination. "It's the only way. We have to end this, for everyone's sake." As the battle raged outside, Zoe placed her hands on the ship's main console. Her eyes began to glow as she reached out, not just to their ship, but to every vessel in both fleets. On the Draknar flagship, Lord Vexcor watched in growing alarm as his systems began to malfunction. Weapons powered down, shields failed, and navigation systems went haywire. The same was happening across his entire fleet. But Zoe didn't stop there. With Crixus's guidance, she began to broadcast a message to every ship, every planet, every corner of the galaxy. It was a message of unity, of the strength found in unlikely alliances, of the power of compassion and courage in the face of tyranny. As Vexacor's fleet fell into disarray, the Alliance pressed their advantage. But instead of destruction, they offered a choice: surrender and face justice, or retreat and never return. In the end, it wasn't firepower that won the day, but the indomitable spirit of a child and the wisdom of an exiled warrior. Vexcor, his ambitions thwarted and his forces in disarray, fled into the depths of uncharted space. As the dust of battle settled, Crixus and Zoe stood on the observation deck of the Alliance flagship, watching the stars. Their journey had taken them from a toxic prison planet to the heart of a galactic conflict, but it wasn't over yet. "What happens now?" Zoe asked, her small hand clasped in Crixus's larger one. Crixus smiled down at her young friend. "Now, little one, we have a galaxy to explore and a lot of good to do. Your gifts are meant for more than just winning battles. Together, we can help build a better future for all species." Captain Chen approached, a warm smile on her face. "The Alliance could certainly use individuals like you. There are so many worlds out there that need help, so many mysteries to solve. What do you say?" Zoe looked up at Crixus, her eyes shining with excitement. The warrior nodded, feeling a sense of purpose she hadn't known in years. "We say yes," Crixus answered for both of them. "Where do we start?" As their ship set course for new adventures, Crixus reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. She had been an exiled warrior, lost and alone on a hostile world. Zoe had been a frightened child, far from home and burdened with abilities she didn't understand. Together, they had become so much more. They had shown the galaxy that true strength comes not from conquest or power, but from understanding, adaptation, and the courage to stand up for what's right. Their unlikely alliance had changed the course of history, and their legend would inspire generations to come. As they ventured into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. One thing was certain. The story of Crixus and Zoe, the exiled sentinel, and the child of extraordinary gifts, was far from over. It was, in many ways, just beginning. The stars stretched out before them, infinite in their possibility. And hand in hand, the warrior and the child stepped forward to meet their destiny, their unlikely alliance a testament to the incredible potential that exists when different worlds come together in friendship and unity.